The beloved of 54 years, the better half of the... I robbed the cradle.
Did he tell you how embarrassed I was for him asking me to dance? Did he tell you that at that dance?
She looked at me. He's an old-looking guy, you know.
And then this older man came up to me and asked for a dance, and oh, I was mortified.
She didn't want to offend me, you know, to reject me.
He was old. I was so embarrassed. I had my head down, but I knew I should not refuse.
Oh, very attractive, a good-looking girl.
And did you remember your first date after that?
But my parents were there. And of course, he was an older-looking man, and he was well-dressed, and he spoke Slovak. And then we went down the street 2 blocks to catch the bus. And I wanted to adjust my shoes once more to make sure they stayed on. And I pulled too tight, and the strap broke. And he had to walk back with me hobbling. And I thought, well, that's the end of that date. Now, when we came back the second time, Grandma was there. And she came in, and you said to her in Slovak, hello or whatever. And she was so surprised, but so pleased that she talked with him for a while, not too long, but talked enough, that she turned and said to my parents, that is the man that Dorothy should marry. Now, I hadn't even had a date with him yet, but that was the man, they said.
She was too young, influenced too much by her elders.
We started dating, and and we'd go over there on the weekends, and parents would always have me come over and dinner, you know, and all that stuff, and speak Slovak, you know, invite me to dinner. Nice guy, you know, and allow me to stay at the house till 2 o'clock in the morning, smooshing away, broke the springs on the Davenport.
December, he went home, and his father said, you must either go with her or break up with her, but you cannot bring her along, stringing her along, one thing or the other.
So my parents really liked her right off the bat.
And what was your impression of Andy's father the first time you met him?
Oh, I loved him. He was always in trouble with his wife. And, well, because she was always yelling at him. I think she wanted him to be perfect in front of me.
My father told me afterwards, a very nice girl, but she looks sickly, so thin.
I was so thin.
Stomach going inwards.
I must have been beautiful.
That's what she told me. I didn't know that.
So I went shopping, and at Christmas time we went to, for an engagement ring. And I went back to Johnstown with Dorothy for Christmas.
So he bought me a ring when we went back, and he gave it to me for Christmas.
Did you get down on one knee?
No, there's another thing there.
I think you gave me the ring, didn't you,
At Christmas.
Christmas? But you never asked me to marry you.
Driving in a car that's 180 miles from Johnstown to Akron. And she says, well, aren't you going to ask me to marry you?
You mean you gave her the ring but you didn't say anything?
Just the engagement. I didn't. Maybe I was supposed to say it. I guess I didn't know it.
Did you stop the car, or did he just kept driving?
I don't think so. He probably just kept driving. It's when he didn't go off the road. And my parents were overjoyed, and the grandparents were overjoyed, and we were getting married. And then I would have been 18.
So we were engaged then for half a year. We got married June 24, 1950.
We were planning to get married in April.
April? I don't remember.
Well, now
that.
listen, why? Because I wanted April, and my mother and father said, no, Paul is to be your best man. And your mother said Millie is to be the maid of honor, hoping the two probably would get together. And so we had to move it to June because my brother was in school.
At the dental school.
Dental school. And so that's why it was pushed up.
That's the first time I've heard this story. After 54 years, new things come out.
We had a large wedding.
We were going to be married at St. John the Baptist Church. And
Catholic church.
That is the same one that my mother and dad were married at, except with just a different church that they built a new one in a different section of town. Well, it rained. it rained and rained, and it would stop once in a while. And the streets were flooded. And we had to wait for the rain. Oh, that was another thing. Andy's mother slept at our house the night before the wedding with her husband and sister. And she made Andy sleep there also. And she said, trust me, he will be late for his wedding if you let him be at his house. So we thought nothing of it. So everybody crammed in and everyone slept there. And so we left Andy there with his men, and we took off for the wedding because it must have stopped raining. And we got to the church, and then we waited. And we waited for Andy. And he was 15 minutes late, and his mother said, I told you. And to this day, 54 years later, I am still saying to him, I hope before I die, you're going to be on time once for something. He never has learned that.
The neighborhood people done a lot of the baking and cooking, and they were, besides being the wedding in the morning at 10 o'clock at a Catholic church there.
Well, we had the first buffet type. They never heard of such a thing. And so as we look at the pictures, we laugh because it's just paper, roll of white paper rolled out covering the tables. Then they had all these bowls of food lined up. And of course the people all talked. They thought it was marvelous to be able to walk up there and get your food rather than having it served. My aunt had said she could get us a good deal.
It's her mother's sister.
I
Her
believe
mother's
you
sister.
just don't go for good deals on something important.
Well, she knew a florist.
Yes, and so I looked at this cover of this magazine, and it was beautiful, huge daisies. And I said, how do they keep up for the day? And she said, beautiful, all day long they'll look beautiful. So I said, that's exactly what I want. And so the flowers were delivered at the church, and then when we arrived, they opened up the boxes, and there were filled daisies, which were tiny like this. And I was so disappointed, and I said, what happened? She said, they couldn't get the others, they didn't come. And she said, I substituted, and I said, well, why didn't you call me? And I would have taken roses or carnations, something that I knew would hold up. And she said, I'm sorry, but I didn't. Well, going down the aisle, you could see my flowers were beautiful. And coming back from the altar after Mass, they were all wilted. And so then going over to the photographers, I stood there with a group of people, and I'm holding these weeds in my hand, and I'm saying to myself, shall I take it with the weeds or without the weeds? And then I thought, but I've never seen a bride without a bouquet. So I held the weeds, and that's how all
Wilted, they were
wilted. And so when we sent the pictures to Europe, to his relatives, they said, what kind of, we have better flowers in our fields than those, and we had to explain why, you know.